Okay, this article is a case study of what is good and what is bad in the case of Tamil Nadu. What is the idea of health? See, if we have to appreciate this article, we need to understand the concept in its whole. Health. Firstly, is it a state subject or a central subject? What am I even talking about? Do we have a central subject? What is the official terminology? Union list. So when I am, in the class when I'm saying central subject, it is just for our convenience. Don't write it in the exam as central subject. There's nothing officially like central subject. Okay. There are some blank faces. Okay, in our constitution, you have Article 246. Go to Lakshmikant, Center State Relations. In that, you will find legislative functions. Under that heading, you will see Article 246. Under that, you will see Schedule 7. Schedule 7 has 3 lists, namely Union, State, and Concurrent list. We are talking about a particular subject under the state list, meaning states are given the power and the responsibility to handle that particular theme. The theme of health is something that state's government should take care of. And since we are talking about the concept of health and the broad framework behind it, we will be looking at the important case studies and try to replicate that. We know Kerala is a very good model for healthcare service. Every time you see some new disease popping up in India, on social media, we'll be seeing that usual comments that every new disease is starting from Kerala because they are coming from some other region. There is a lot of migration, etc., etc. They're as if they are giving the diseases to the entire country. The reality is the disease surveillance programs of Kerala are so strong that they try to prevent it before it spreads to the rest of the country. It's very likely that the same diseases, people from the same countries who are migrating away from Kerala, coming back to Kerala, are also going to Gujarat, Mumbai, Chennai, Hyderabad, Delhi, Kolkata, different parts of the country. But we do not have enough surveillance systems to see what is wrong there. So that's something that we need to pick up, right, from Kerala. Not just Kerala, any state that is doing well in terms of the entire healthcare infrastructure, we need to focus on that. What is the idea of health? What is the World Health Organization definition of health? Health is just not absence of disease. It's a state of well-being. Please note this definition down. If you don't remember this, let's put it like a mathematical equation. Health is equal to mental plus physical well-being, and not just absence of disease. We can write it like this. Health is equal to mental plus physical well-being, and not just absence of disease. This aspect is completely ignored in India. We do have laws, but it's still a stigma. But just because on social media there is a lot of discussion on mental health, there is also one extreme phenomenon where even the slightest discomfort is treated as a mental health problem. There is a difference between being sad and being depressed. Please do not equate both of them on the same lines. There is a lot of importance to this. Emotional resilience, Gs-4, emotional intelligence. This is a topic. There is a person called Daniel Coleman. You need to understand what is emotional intelligence. At the slightest discomfort, people say that they are depressed. That's not true. Depression is a very big statement to make. And most people who think they are depressed are not. They're just sad. So there is a conflict in Indian society where actually people who are depressed just brush it under the carpet. The next generation, which is learning the importance of mental health, overdoes it just to compensate for lack of responsibility, taking responsibility. I'm not saying this. I'm not putting my opinion. There are actual research papers which say this. So this conflicting existence of two generations which ignore mental health as well as physical health in a race to pass on the generational wealth to this generation who do not know what to do with it because they lack purpose. Their purpose was to build wealth. The generation before that, their purpose was just to survive. Now you will see a situation where, why am I talking about all of this? I'll tell you. The situation now is that there is a generation where there is a significant middle class. The middle class of today was once the rich of the previous generation. Right. So this class difference, when you combine with the caste, is also impacting our health. This is the sociological aspect of governance. So on one hand, we have the younger generation who are probably not seeing a purpose. So they have mental health problems to a certain extent. And the previous generation ignores those mental health problems. They have the wealth to handle them, but not the mindset to handle them. This generation has both wealth and mindset, but they lack purpose, which is again accentuating this mental health problem. This is one aspect of it. The other aspect is the physical part. Evolution of healthcare sector. We started with a problem that mortality was very high. Life expectancy was very low. People did not survive beyond certain age. I don't remember the exact statistics at the time of independence. You can go back and check. But it has improved significantly now. You are living longer. It should ideally make people happy. But somehow, when you lack a sense of purpose, you live longer. You're only enduring that pain longer. And that is the perception of the next generation when you don't have a sense of purpose. So it is the responsibility of the state. When I'm saying state, it is not Tamil Nadu, Kerala, that state. The larger concept of state. The concept that we discuss in Article 12 of the Indian Constitution, where you are talking about the fundamental rights under Part 3 of the Indian Constitution. Okay. So the purpose of giving these fundamental rights to citizens of that country is to ensure the state of well-being, to live a life filled with dignity. Dignity is at the heart of Part 3 of the Indian Constitution. When you don't give them the dignity, you are taking away the purpose of that existence. So in a social contract between the individual and the state, it is state's responsibility to give them a right to healthcare because it is linked to their well-being. But do we have an explicit fundamental right? Despite COVID, we do not have right to healthcare. The fact that we are still looking at case studies and saying this is good, this is bad, and not having a fundamental right is the major problem according to me. We have not learned from our mistakes of COVID. And it doesn't seem like we are learning. There is a recent proposal that the state government of Telangana wants to reserve 25% of the seats for SC and ST students in private schools. Reservation is not the problem. The methodology of imparting education and inclusion through the private sector. There are some domains where profit cannot be the motive. I'm slightly diverging from the topic because it's relevant. For the well-being of citizens, education, healthcare, skills, these are all important, which builds something called the social capital required for the, that community or that nation. These aspects cannot be outsourced to the private sector, which primarily functions on profit. All the state subjects are witnessing a trend of privatization of well-being, which is an ethical issue, Gs-4. The privatization of healthcare, privatization of education, privatization of skills. And this leads to exclusion of some certain segments of society. So when you bring electoral vote bank politics into service delivery, just for appeasing, the very purpose will be distorted. Instead of focusing on the quality of public schools, government schools, we are moving away and giving admissions to kids, the next generations. Again, this is a twofold problem. I know we are supposed to talk about health of Tamil Nadu, but this is an article which you will only appreciate when you understand the larger context of why this is good. Okay. So, Social capital is equal to health plus education plus skills and well-being. What you will see in the Human Development Index. Okay? A concept that is brought forth by UNDP along with the help of thinkers like Amartya Sen. In that larger context of well-being of a society, we are talking about health. Health as a part of Article 246 under the state subject. Under that, we're talking about social capital. This is just one of the component, but how do you put this in a context? You won't be able to put this in a context if I just summarize and leave, right? So that is why I'm telling you the backstory so that you can do this homework. It will make more sense. So this whole HDI thing, we are supposed to ensure well-being through the involvement of state. When state outsources this kind of responsibilities to the private, what is the incentive for private to take care and do the responsibility of the state? Can you privatize military? The very thought of it is so scary. Then why are we not questioning when it comes to education? It is a reality that we all want government jobs, but we don't want admission in government hospitals and government schools. Don't you think that should be the idea? Promoting an infrastructure and a process and a system where everybody feels it is a good place to go. That is the case in most of the aspiring states like Scandinavian countries, where 40% of your income goes into taxation and nobody complains because so many things are taken care. Free education till 12th. Your government services, the last mile service delivery is so good that nobody complains that 40% of the wealth is taken away from them. The lack of accountability at every level and the normalization of this corruption is the biggest tragedy of Indian democracy. Even after such a horrific experience like COVID, there's no one asking for right to health. Even if it is made a subject, nobody cares. Electoral politics do not change when a party comes up and says that we will give you free healthcare as a right. Nobody cares because they're just not aware of the significance. What is the insurance penetration in this country? In our own vicinity, how many of your families have insurance? Very few people have insurance. They don't understand and realize. We are in a country where if you don't get any diagnosis after a diagnostic test, you feel it is like a waste of money. As if it is worth it if you get some disease after the diagnosis. Only then it is worth it, otherwise it's not. So many layered nuances that you see from attitudes of the society will reflect in the politics also. Anyway, coming back. We're talking about the health, physical and mental well-being and why Tamil Nadu is a good example. Because the structure of healthcare service delivery is in such a way that you have at the bottom primary healthcare centers and then you have tertiary level and finally at the district level you will have the best hospitals. So secondary healthcare, tertiary. If there is a snake bite in a village, do you think you have to run to the district headquarters? Or it should be ideally served here? It's an emergency situation, something that can be prevented. And even today, in many states, they will have to travel as much as 200 kilometers to get an antivenom. And I'm not talking about some remote place in the northeast or border regions. I'm talking about the central land, the so-called developed states with highest contribution to the GDP. Maharashtra, Andhra Pradesh. If not in terms of GDP, it's still developed, right? There are many districts, many remote places in Andhra Pradesh where a snake bite victim will have to travel for almost 150 kilometers to get an antivenom injection. Sometimes there are no stock. Sometimes the venom that is available, antivenom that is available is not relevant for the snake bite. People dying because of snake bites in 2025 is a tragedy. It showcases apathy. And you should not expect someone sitting at the center in Delhi to fix those issues in the very remotest corner of this country. That is why we have democratic decentralization. That is why we have 73rd and 74th Amendment Act. You are giving them power without responsibility, which is as good as having no power. You are giving them responsibility but no power. What is the point? So the reason why we have to appreciate Tamil Nadu healthcare sector is that it was able to deliver in all these levels, but still there are challenges despite doing so much. At the ground level, there is still almost, if I'm not wrong, 20% shortage. Okay, so go through this article, you will see the good things and the bad things in this pyramidal structure. What is the good thing at primary healthcare, secondary healthcare, tertiary healthcare? What are the challenges? Every state needs to be looked at like this. And broadly speaking, health problems, the physical health problems, can be divided into non-communicable and communicable diseases. Communicable diseases can be fixed through vaccines. And the biggest problem in vaccine sector is vaccine hesitancy after COVID. You've seen how much resistance people have had for vaccines of COVID because they were scared. Equal number of people wanted to have vaccines and people are scared that I don't want to take vaccines. Lot of doctors, personally I've seen a lot of doctors, they did not take COVID vaccine even now. They were like, we will take prophylaxis, meaning we will try to cushion the blow by using some medication before that, but we won't take vaccines because we believe we are fit enough. And they knew something that the rest of the world did not, which was proven right when Pfizer came out with, saying that, we are not really sure what is the impact of vaccines. But since it's a global emergency, we had to roll out the vaccines. Again, there are two sides of the coin. They're right. And even if they are right in rolling out the vaccines because there was little time, it's only ethical to say that, okay, we are not sure of what's going to happen, but if you want to take it. But they did not do it. Across the world, they've made it mandatory. And making it mandatory and not having choice without explaining the consequences is a problem. Okay, so these are the things that you have to study from this article.